had exhibited in a very risk-averse industry. How do you find people that are early adopters, right? These guys were early adopters. Now, there's several things to note about that video, right? The production quality of that video, by default, sucks. Because process engineers don't want to see some Hollywood slick production, right? Process engineers want to see guys that look like them, or women that look like them. They don't want to see somebody, you know, that's got their hair slicked back and they're, you know, and they're wearing a suit. They want to see people that look real. You don't want to feel like you're being sold. I remember once a production guy, a video guy, came to me and said, "Looks like they're being interrogated in the basement of the CIA." I said, by definition, right? I mean, you don't want to have something that doesn't look genuine. The second thing that I think is important to note is that in Danish culture, the Danes are incredibly humble people. And the Danes, I had to argue really hard with the Danes to create those videos. Because, you know, they thought, oh no, this is like very American, this is too aggressive, this is so over the top, we can't do this. I said, you guys understand? How else is anybody going to know about these guys if you don't capture their testimony, right? And it turned out to be the most important sales tool they had, because when they were able to get somebody that showed interest, you know, there's Russ and there's, you know, all of the team, and they're saying these things, and it's clear that they are genuine, right? This is not some, you know, Dove soap commercial where you've got some housewife reading off of a script. These guys are as real as they get, right? So for both of you, right, you get that MVP into the hands of someone like Russ, and you capture their testimonial in a very direct and very authentic and very effective way, and you prove out just how much economic value is created. And this is the foundation on which you build your, you know, your go-to-market strategy. Okay?
The customers were American?
Those were American. They were in San Diego, California.
But the product is Danish.
Product came out of the Danfoss Corporation's labs in Jutland in Denmark. Yeah. And it came through my classroom, and we hired an American president, young guy who lived in Boston, and he was the guy that ultimately sort of drove the commercial business, right? But this is sort of, you know, this is the foundation of how you build a company, right? This is the foundation on which you will build the value. You've got to get your way to like 5 or 10 of that guy, right?
You mentioned earlier about the business model canvas.
Yeah.
You didn't quite circle back to that.
Yeah, so let's talk very quickly about the business model canvas. I'll bring that up. Right, so you saw the lean value canvas. And all of these, by the way, are online, okay? So you're going to see lean value canvas online. You'll be able to find that. You're going to find business model canvas online. So that's, you know, so that's not going to be an issue. Let me see if I have it in here. Let me see, do I have it in here? Slide sorter. Here we go. So now that's blue badge. They look very much alike, so I'm just trying to see if I have it here. If I have to go another one. Here we go. Okay. So did you guys ever look at this book, Business Model Generation? Oh, I got to flip this bit back in.
I remember
Yeah.
going through this a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, you and I used this in our work together, obviously, right? So this book is a unique book in that it's an open source book. And what that means is the author doesn't charge you money for the book, which is pretty rare. So this became a global phenomenon in very much the same way Lean Startup became a global phenomenon. Okay? Now this book is about 5 or 6 years old, but it's still very, you know, widely referred to. And so business model generation, the primary tool that came out of it is the business model canvas. And the business model canvas differs from the lean value canvas in that you're talking more about the key activities, the key partners, the key resources. So those are the differences. Okay? So if you think about the journey of a startup, the first step is you validate problem-solution fit. That's what the lean value canvas is. The second step is that you validate product-market fit. Okay? You've gone from shipping an MVP to shipping what you believe is the product that you will now scale up on. Okay? Once you get to product market fit, now I am going to start to raise money and scale my business. This is how you start to think about scaling your business, right? So, you know, you have your customer segment, right? Now, if you're building a two-sided market or a multi-sided market, you would complete this a little bit differently. In Mark, you are really more of a multi-sided platform, right? I mean, you are essentially matching passengers and drivers in the way Uber is, right?
Yes, but
Yeah.
we don't need commuters.
Right, so your persona is very clearly
Yeah, Uber
defined.
is very strong. I have a map here that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Below 10 kilometers from destination, Uber taxi kill it. We
Yeah.
can't compete there.
Sure,
But between 10 and 50,
yeah,
people commuter work, Uber's not going with it.
Right.
They don't want to.
You're creating two sides of the market though, in the sense there's a market for people who want to sell, and there's a market for people who
It's a
buy.
marketplace for empty seats and cars.
yeah. I'm gonna just have you get me on the internet so I can hail an Uber again.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm gonna start it one more time. So the business model canvas, if you go online, you will see 1,000 variations of the business model canvas. Okay? This is the one that was published in the book. Because it was put into open source, there's a lot of different derivatives. So start with first principles, and then you can start to say, is there a slight variation of the business model canvas that's more relevant to what I do? Okay? So because Mark is in the business of what I call a multi-sided platform, oh yeah, I'm sorry, 1040. So he has to think about his customer segments would be color-coded, let's say red and blue. So he's going to care very much about who are my drivers, who are my passengers. And there's got to be value for both. But for you guys, you're really selling product to an end user, right? And so, again, what is it, the agriculture segment, right? So who would you say right now is your likely, using your informed intuition, your likely persona?
Recyclers.
And what is it about your product that makes them the perfect fit right now?
Recyclers actually dehydrate oxide for the bleaching.
Okay.
They're generally located near urban areas.
I see, okay.
And because the raw materials there, and also and because of that proximity, there's regulations that prevent them from having
Okay.
industrial, highly concentrated chemicals being shipped to their facilities. So
Okay.
I think that being able to do it on site is a key sort of advantage.
Okay.
For them.
All right.
And there are others as well, like people that produce or that need food grade or antiseptic grade hydrogen
4 minutes, so I'll order
Okay.
everything at close.
Yeah, you wait for a little while. We'll wait for a little bit.
Those are the key customers.
Okay, cool. So what I would say is this is something where you really now are at a point where you're starting to scale. And as you can notice, every single one of these boxes has the word hypothesis in it, right? And as just as a way of reinforcing in the words Mark used, right? Everything's an experiment, right? The market is an experiment. So I want to test the hypothesis, right? I've already done the problem. You know, if I've used the lean value canvas, then I have a very good feel for this, okay? As well as my unique value proposition. But now I'm starting to layer on a variety of more business model-oriented elements, right? What kind of relationship am I building, right? So on the continuum, right? None of us have ever bought a can of Coca-Cola from a Coca-Cola employee, right? Anytime I buy a can of Coca-Cola, it's from a grocery store, from a kiosk, from a vending machine, right? So there are very transactional relationships, and the other end, there are very deeply intimate, committed industrial relationships. And of course, you guys are in that world, okay? Mark is slightly toward the middle of that continuum, right? It's not life and death if, you know, someone is late, for example, to work one day. But for you guys, your customers, there's going to be held to pay. So what's the nature of the relationship that I'm building with my customer? What are the online and physical channels that I'm going to use to reach that customer? Okay? What are the key activities that my firm has to engage in to deliver value? What are the key resources that I have to have in order to be able to execute against my business model? Who are the critical strategic partners that are going to give me access to market, access to customer, access to distribution, access to capital, okay? And then, you know, ultimately, what's my cost structure and my revenue structure? So this is a meta framework, right? And the beauty of this framework is it allows you to make trade-offs between, because you can't be perfect in all of these things, right? You have limited resources. So you start to look at where do I believe the most important levers for strategic success are found, and where do I place most of my investments? So you have a nice dashboard to be able to do that, right? So if you go on the web, you can go to Business Model Canvas. You'll see so many tools, right? There's a huge industry that has evolved around this framework in that book. Okay. So any last questions, guys? I don't want to miss my flight because I'm teaching tomorrow, and they don't like it when I don't show up. Any other questions I can answer?
Where are you based on?
I'm based in Boston. I'm here once a month.
Okay.
I've been coming up here for, as Mark has once said, since 2006.
First time we met, yes.
Yeah, maybe
The program is called
2011.
7A.
Yeah.
CIM.
So you teach at MIT?
I lecture at MIT, but I'm now much more involved with a school called HULT. HULT is the world's largest graduate management school. 7 years ago, it didn't exist, but it had its own disruptive model, which was a one-year accelerated master's program. We are in Shanghai, we are in Dubai, we're in London, we're in Sao Paulo, and then we're in Boston, New York, and San Francisco. And I run entrepreneurship for the school, so I teach it on those campuses. And we have students from 140 countries around the world, which makes it incredibly interesting. So Mark has gotten to know some of my Mexican students, some of my European students. I think he shared with me that a couple of my well-off Mexican students are now partners in his business in Mexico. So I do that. I run Startup Next in Boston, which is a very interesting pre-accelerator that was started by the same people that started Startup Weekend. Right? It's Google, it's Startup America. I'm a fellow for IDEO, which is the open IDEO, a very clear distinction, which is applying human-centered design to social challenges. So I do a bunch of stuff. I mentor a bunch
Are
of
you
sellers.
personally involved in startups as an active role, like
Oh.
board member?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm on probably 5 boards right here in Montreal. I'm in boards, and I'm on the board of Mercado Digital in Sydney, which is the world's largest provider of ticketing software to music festivals like Coachella and Berlin Music Festival, Halifax Biomedical. Yeah, I mean, I invest, I mentor, I consolidate, all that kind of stuff. It's all good.
Still involved with software?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I just keep adding more stuff. I don't stop doing it.
Okay, good stuff.
I just keep adding more stuff. I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. You know? But I'll be back. I'm going to be back here to talk at C2 Montreal, and then be back to talk at Startup Fest. So I'll be back in May. I'll be back in April. I'll be back in May. I'll be back in June.
Thanks a lot.
I know, it's fun. I wish we had more time, guys. It's good.
Thank you so much.
Good discussion. And now that you get home to Halifax fairly often?
No.
No?
No.
I guess after yesterday, I'd be swimming that before I could fly.
Yeah, exactly, right. And plus, I don't miss the 8 feet of snow sitting in our driveway.
Yeah, is that bad, huh?
Yeah. They're bringing in outside ice breaking technology.
Is that right?
There's
It's really that bad?
potholes in the ice in the road, so it's.
Yeah, I mean, we had a brutal winter in Massachusetts. as you
Yeah,
know.